And now, time to get in the huddle with your host, Charles Prodigy Richey, here on the Man of Steel podcast.
Hey, you blink, I'll cut your eyelids off. Don't you blink. I got you. Let's go.
You get where you feel like you can rush the quarterback. You understand? Yeah. Rush the quarterback. Bangs in for the touchdown, and there's the coup de grace.
Do you have room in the trophy for another one there? You got 6 of them. Now you're the winningest franchise in NFL history.
We'll make room.
All right, moving on right now. Let's go into another sport right now. NBA fast break right now, beginning with our very own Chicago Bulls right now. Josh, I will definitely start off with you on this one. I know you definitely cover the Bulls as one of your top teams right there. Also had the very fine pleasure. Congratulations once again to you, Kyle, and everybody at Real Radio covering the All-Star event this year in Chicago. I know that was one of the highlights of this 2020 season before everything got on hand. But right now, I finally see a change. I'm sorry. We see a change for the first time in a long time, which was about 17 years doing the making right there. John Paxson finally decides to leave on his own terms. They end up firing Gar Forman as GM, and now you're going to be having Artūras Karnišovas right now, who was previously last with the Denver Nuggets right there, has developed some nice international talent across the board. And then now you also got Marc Eversley, a nice candidate right there, African-American GM right there. Nice to see that trend going right there as like how they do with the White Sox. Still having Kenny Williams along right there as your executive vice president. But with the Chicago Bulls right now, what's your opening gauge, the pulse on this team right now for the moment? I mean, with them, I mean, the signs, just knowing the fact that, I mean, I got to say, Michael Reinsdorf really surprised me. I was really doubtful if he was going to be like his dad, where you're going to keep things going the way you're doing, because a Bulls reputation, unfortunately, during this free agent time where all superstar teams have been accused of not spending enough properly and putting themselves in position. When you had years back with guys like Derrick Rose or Jimmy Butler building an extra guard right now, what's your early feeling right now on this team since they made that transition? I mean, how many years can we expect to see them be back to a playoff form yellow?
Well, I think a lot of these things we can't really decide until they actually make the necessary decisions that they need to make, especially with the head coach. You got a good front office. According to people that I've talked to around the league, they're very impressed with the Bulls' hirings of Artūras and Marc Eversley, especially Marc Eversley. Actually, I recently just had Brandon Scoopy Robertson, host of Scoopy Radio podcast and senior writer at Heavy.com. He actually told me on my podcast that the Marc Eversley hiring was very underrated because of his connections with Nike, and Nike, and because of those connections, they could play a huge role when it comes to recruiting top tier talent to their city and to their franchise. So because of that, having someone that's relatable to players, that's what the Bulls need, from a front office and to your coaching staff, to your head coach. You need people that are relatable you need coaches that are relatable to their players. And on top of that relativity, once you build that bond, you have to put the right coaching staff around the head coach to actually develop the talent that's there. One of the knocks against the Bulls this past season was the fact that you had prime foundational players in Lauri Marketing, Kobe White, Zach LaVine, and Wendell Carter, and over half of those players regressed over the season. And part of it is due to coaching, part of it is due to the dysfunction that was going on within that season, within the front office, and all that sort. But at the end of the day, players regressed, and you were losing games you should have won. And that falls on, and 9 times out of 10, that falls on your coaching staff. So we have to see what the Bulls are going to do with that head coaching change. Are they going to keep Jim Boylen? Are they going to let him walk and bring in another prime candidate that they feel is best to take this team into a new franchise? I've heard that they're kind of torn with that decision because of the fact that the new tandem, Eversley and Artūras. I call him AK for short because it's really hard to pronounce his last name at times. So I call him AK for short. I've heard that they're kind of torn. I heard that they want to move in a new direction that ultimately does mean replacing Jim Boylan. But I also heard that John Pax and the Reinsdorfs want to give Jim Boylan another chance. And they ideally would want AK and Eversley to make that decision, to go with that decision. But at the end of the day, they are giving AK and Eversley the reins to do whatever is necessary to move the team in the way that they needs to go. So if they want to get rid of Boylan, they will get rid of him. But it's unsure right now, and they're taking their time with that decision, especially since the NBA is really still trying to figure out what they're going to do with the bubble that they have in Orlando. And it's reportedly that they're making a second bubble in Chicago for teams that aren't making the playoffs, which is the Bulls. So if the Bulls are playing exhibition games and seasons as of right now within the second bubble, if that goes through, you're going to need a head coach to run those ranks. And Jim Boylan is the head coach right now. So they're really taking their time with this decision. And part of it is because they need to know what the league is doing. Once the league makes the final decisions as far as whether you're going to have a second bubble, whether you're going to have these players training early for camps, whether they're going to be playing exhibition games, once you actually get those decisions in place from the ultimate league position with Commissioner Silver, I think that'll help make things easier for the Bulls to operate and maneuver when it comes to fulfilling the roles and that needs to be filled, especially when it comes to making a decision with the head coach.
Yeah, I don't mind them. I don't mind them taking their time. Like I appreciate the fact that they're trying to cross their T's and dot their I's. But I got to be honest with you. Like every minute that passes, that Boylan is still the head coach, I get a little more worried that he's actually going to survive another season. And I don't want to see that. I want to see them put somebody new in place, get a fresh face in there, fresh voice, and see if that person can better develop these younger players. I feel like you said, they got a pretty good core of players that I feel like they should be playing better than what they have been.
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. And then another thing is too, to your point, Josh. I mean, we're just talking about a lot of things across the league too. I mean, another question is, how late are you going to be willing to delay the start of next season? You would think ideally February is supposed to be the target date, but who's to say they may not try to push it maybe like another 2-3 months, shorten it? I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I mean, this whole thing with the bubble, man, no offense, no pun intended, but I'm going to say it this way. I think some bubbles are going to be bursted soon if this pandemic does not get cured.
It's already happening, I think.
You know what I'm saying?
Happening. People testing positive.
You know what happens when you live in a bubble, right?
Yeah.
That's my only thing, though. But I got to tell you this, though. I mean, this definitely continues to prove why Adam Silver, he is like the Professor X of commissioners, including the NBA right there. He's doing everything he can possibly. And listen, I just think the only concern is, too, because if this season does fall short, there's a lot of things, like we mentioned in sports. Players will probably be losing a lot more flexibility as far as, like, money on the table, where they may have to share that revenue a little bit more with the executives. I think they're making slightly more right now, a little bit more than 50% with these sponsors right there. They could still possibly abolish the CBA right now, I think, at any time. And I think they could do that as early 2023. But real quick, before we wrap out of here real quickly, with the NBA trying to resume, who do you like right now to get into the playoffs as far as the teams that are still alive by 6 games out right now? Will we see a push by Zion Williamson and the Pelicans? Will they be in the playoffs this year? Will Zion get Rookie of the Year possibly? Or with this? I mean, will we see the Pelicans be on Showtime in the playoffs?
I mean, I ideally would love to have Zion in there, but me personally, I think the Trailblazers will take it because of the fact that you can never count out Dame Dollar, and you have Dame Dollar in the backcourt with C.J. McCollum. It is a deadly nightmare. You got a healthy Melo who was really coming into his own, dropping 20 a game as the third guy in that lineup. And the most important thing is you actually now have Nurkic coming back, Yusuf Nurkic coming back, and Hassan Whiteside coming back healthy. Those are your defensive anchors that you needed to battle against the big teams of the West. And to have that, unfortunately, yeah, they made some huge losses. Rodney Hood isn't fully healthy, and you lost Trevor Ariza due to him, in that restart. So yeah, they took some hits, but they got Trent Richardson Jr., who's a great 3-point shooter. You have, and you can never count out Dame Dollar and CJ McCollum in that backcourt. I actually talked to CJ during All-Star Weekend, asking him about, making that push for that 8th seed, and he said he was willing to. He was ready to take that mantle. He was ready to take that thing and move forward until D. Lil comes back. And for the most part, when the season started, he was doing that. He was really doing that. And so for them to have Damian Lillard coming back, I can't count out the fact that you got a veteran squad with crazy scoring ability and deep at the ankles like the Portland Trailblazers do, even though they are thin at the bench compared to a young Pelicans team that, quite frankly, still has a little bit more to go on the rise and isn't fully. And because of the fact that they're so young and none of them have actually had playoff experience with them going against the Grizzlies, who have really been shocking a lot of people with that 8th spot behind the leadership of John Morant and Jaren Jackson. It's going to be a tough battle for that 8th spot, but I would not be surprised if the Portland Trailblazers takes it over Zion Williamson and the Pelicans.
Sure. Yeah, I gotta go with Josh on this just because of the experience factor, if nothing else. The Pelicans' youth might lend itself to kind of creeping in there just because they don't know any better. And they might just play off of the energy that Zion brings. But like you said, man, just experience, having some guys coming back, Dame being there, McCollum, I'm going to have to go with Portland.
Yeah, and I'll probably have to agree with you guys as much as I want to see as an NBA fan, Zion Williamson be in there. I mean, rookie, but as another thing is, too, to add to that mix, with this being short amount of time you got towards the end of the season, Zion Williamson, can he stay healthy down the stretch right there? Will he be disciplined enough to not go and max intensity right there? Because you see what happens even in his college days right there. Who's to say he ain't going to experience some sort of a knee injury or something along the way, playing this tight right there where there's hardly any room for error if you are going to try and make a playoff push? I would have to think that because, don't get me wrong, I think the Pelicans, I think it's Griffin, I believe is the front office name. Correct me if I'm wrong. Who's the guy from the Cavs used to be there? Was that Griffin?
Yep, David Griffin.
David Griffin. Thank you, Josh. I just feel right there that's got to be a concern if I'm a Pelicans fan watching this. So can I ensure that Williamson is be disciplined down the stretch with the short amount of time you got remaining right there? He's not going to go overboard with his energy, trust his teammates. I think that would just be my only concern right there.
That's definitely something you will have to monitor as a coach and as a franchise. You have to monitor your franchise player when it comes to him coming off the injuries that he is. But if you look at his training videos, if you look at his work ethic, he's been grinding. He lost weight. He gained muscle. He's getting himself into the basketball shape that many people have criticized him for not being in. And he's putting in the work. So, yeah, you definitely have to monitor that. But to see him changing his body the way that it is to make it healthier for that type of push, at this point, you can't fully count them out. They'll definitely make things very competitive, especially with Zion being as aggressive of a player as he is.
And I think the bubble environment will help Zion.
Yes,
going to help him.
Definitely,
just kind of keep him tamed in a little bit. Just kind of keep an eye on him closely. I could definitely see that part.